When it comes to explaining things like a type moon universe, it is difficult. Not necessarily because of how complicated it is, since once you've seen one massive convoluted timeline of a franchise, you've kind of seen them all. The issue when it comes to explaining these kind of convoluted timelines, however, isn't due to the difficulty of the complexity, but simply due to the length. And oh boy, has Type Moon been around for enough years to make it very long. So here I am, about to undertake a new gargantuan task to explain the entire Type Moon franchise in a distinct timeline-based manner. Oh boy. Thankfully, however, before everything diverges into their weird, wacky timelines, everything at least begins all the same. Earth was created roughly 4.6 billion years ago, except magic in this universe exists, and through the use of magic, all the wackiness comes to fruition. The most important thing to know about the Type Moon universes is that the moon cell exists. I'll explain more about this thing in particular later, but right now all you need to know is that it is just a very powerful magic thing. So, Earth exists, but so does the wacky world of magic. And for billions of years until 1 AD, the laws of physics did not exist, but instead the laws of mystery ruled the world. What is mystery? Well, it's the basics of magic. Except magic in Type Moon isn't exactly like the magic I'm talking about, because magic is a subcategory of mystery, because mystery takes place of magic, and magic is a subcategory, and magecraft is a subcategory of. It's very complicated. All you need to know is that mystery is the use of the magic system here in the Type Moon universe. Mystery is the most powerful form of magic in this universe, magic being second, because of course you have to make your own magic system in this kind of universe. Through this age of mystery or magic and gods, the world developed relatively normally. Dinosaurs existed, and the atmosphere was rich with ether, which was kind of like some sort of magic juice. Then the asteroid hit, and apparently the impact of the meteorite evaporated a lot of the magic juice, along with the dinosaurs. Then boring evolution happened, changed some sort of god goop, and this god goop turned the frogs gay. I mean, turned the frogs into gods and other creatures, thus creating the Mesoamerica version of civilization. In other regions, however, gods were otherworldly beings that took the form of nature and did all the shenanigans, which meant they interacted with us mere mortals a lot more, but the world was still Magic Land, and in Magic Land, everything was wacky, which is why all these weird mythological heroes exist, and Magecraft, which, again, isn't magic in the world Type Moon, but an inferior counterpart, got itself a little bit of a boost in its power level during this time until the Great Deterioration. About 12,000 BC, a powerful god named Safar, we'll talk more about her later. All you need to know about her currently is she's a god of destruction or something like that. She destroyed about 80% of the planet, including both the mortal and divine. Then six great fairies, we'll get to that, created a holy sword forged in the core of the planet. We'll get to that to defeat Safar. But her destruction left its mark, and the gods were now weakened and losing power, eventually having to possess compatible human beings in order to walk around the world. We'll get to that. Over the years, God developed and changed, blah blah blah. And around 4000 BC, the Greek boys made Pandora, and along with Pandora's box, much like in the actual myth, the box contained the bad things and some of the good things, and depending on the timeline, was opened by Pandora or not. We'll get to that. Aside from that, as time moved forward, gods realized their age was ending, so in around 2600 BC, the gods of Mesopotamia made Gilgamesh, half mortal, half god, full mongrel, to try and connect the gods and humanity together. If you know your ancient myths, they didn't work. Gilgamesh said no, and quickened the pace of separation from the gods. Gods lost their powers, became divine spirits, forced to exist mostly in the spirit realm, or the omniverse, dark world, dark dimension, or phantom zone, demon realm, or the netherworld, or whatever the ultimate dimension is supposed to be called, unable to do any real interference with the world directly. Then some more real myth stuff occurred around 1000 BC. The Norse pantheon came to an end during the whole Ragnarok thing. Later, 900 BC, the demise of Solomon, the king of magic, then accelerated the decline of mystery. Then the event called the Trigger occurred, which was a mysterious thing that caused the end of the Age of Gods and the beginning of the next age. Not much is known about it, as it's left vague intentionally. And the Age of Fairies again, not much information from it. And then the Age of Man. More myths occur, more importantly, physics now exist, and only 5 true magics exist in the world. It also explains how parallel worlds exist. It is explained that the future is not set and malleable, thus various outcomes exist, and why all these various stories also exist and are canon in the same time as each other. With this long-winded preamble done, let's go ahead and explain these fate timelines and the main pieces of media. So strap in. This is going to take a while. So with this first video, let's ease into everything. The first Type Moon piece of media I will be talking about is the Tsukihime world. Surprise, surprise, being made by Type Moon. It's an adult Windows visual novel and was a major hit that the company needed to continue its legacy. In this timeline, it is almost identical to Fate's except for one crucial detail. Rune's the Crimson Moon, also known as Type Moon, ah, some sort of god king thing. He was hired by the Earth to protect itself from human corruption, so he made true ancestors, which were vampires, basically. And I hope you like vampires, because in this timeline, that's all you're gonna get. So Brunstu ran around assaulting people. Eventually, he planned on conquering the Earth. Keisha Zelrich Schweinvogt beat him and he died, thus ending the Crimson Moon. At least that's what happens in the Fate timelines. Here, in this timeline, still loses, but he knew he was going to die as he had a premonition, so he made a he uses his true ancestors to create a body for him in the future. In this timeline, Zelrich was attacked by the third, the 27, the dead apostle ancestors. They're vampire-like beings that work with the moon, making them the evil big bad organization in this timeline, thus turning him and he becomes a dead apostle ancestor himself, and therefore enemy of mankind, which meant that he wasn't able to oppose the Crimson Moon. Also, this made it so that the 27 dead apostle ancestors existed in this world. The main heroine of the Tsukihime story is the princess of the true ancestors, Margaret Brunstone, born sometime in the 1100s AD. Later on, in 1976, May 3rd, Seal, another main character for the story, was born in the Holy Church, and the Holy Church fights the supernatural. Michael Rovodamjong, a vampire and a numberless dead apostle ancestor, ranked as an extra, outside of the regular 27 because they consider him an outsider to be a heretic. Then the Tsukihime visual novel happens. The visual novel chronicles the life and story of a teenage boy named Shiki Tono. As a young boy, Shiki suffered a life-threatening accident. As a result of this injury, able to see death lines on objects and people. If Shiki traces those lines with a sharp object, the person or object that got traced will die. He has Nananya blood. The Nananya family is a group of killers specializing in hunting down non-humans. He also has a sister. So he goes about his life as a normal little dweeb until encountering Arcurid, who activates his ability which was suppressed for a long time. After this, he goes on adventures around town, getting dates and hunting vamps. Surprise, surprise, the Japanese visual novel has multiple endings depending on who Best Girl is. 6 main endings for 6 girls with good, bad, and neutral endings within those. It's not too important, I'm not going to delve into them. I do have a complaint about both this and the future works like Fate. What's with all this plot in my adult content? I came here for the plot, not the plot. So let me come. Kitsutoya, which occurs 1 year after which Shiki gets hit by an accident.
Sports where you just
After Shiki gets hit by this accident, he becomes Bill Murray, and the only way to escape Groundhog Day is to find Len, the creator of the dream, if he wishes to escape. I don't know who Len is. In the same year after Kogetsu Toya, the events of the next game take place, Melty Blood. This game follows none of the pre-existing endings of Tsukihime, but actually follows the cut ending for a character named Sasuke. This game, unlike its predecessors, which were visual novels, is a 2D fighting game. Shiki catches wind that something has run amok, and here he teams up with new girl Sion to catch a killer. Once more, multiple endings. The main ending leads to Zepia Eltum Oberon. God damn was these names. Was the big guy getting defeated by Shiki and Sion. What multi-blood actress again occurs 1 year after the fact, where Shiki just fights people. Then he meets Arcuid, who has been cruelly thrown to the wayside and all this, but instead of being an actual Arcuid, it's now evil Arcuid. Ah, after this, he runs around the city fighting. It's not that important. It's a fighting game. You fight. Until he finally meets the Dust of Osiris, which is the future version of Sion. She has come to change the ending where he kills Apaya because according to her, he is the reason why her other self exists and the reason why she does not exist. It is revealed that she is a Sion created by Tatari to kill Shiki in order to make the world where they were real. Tatari is Zepia's pseudonym, I think. basing all of this through guesswork. There was never really an English port. I'm basing everything off the wiki, really. Long story short, evil Sion loses, Shiki and good Sion prevails. Then a manga in 2015, many years after these games were released, was published. It was a crossover between the world of Tsukihime, Fate Extra, and Fate Grand Order, because now Fate has taken over the world. Sion is the main focus, and it's her investigating the future potential of what will happen with the formation of Sheldia and its director, Lev. We'll get to that. And that's it. Tsukihime ends with that. Not much left after. Damn it. Alright, that's right. With the introduction of Fate Timeline, everything got a little bit more wacky. Time to enrich the world with more lore. Now, in the remake, most of the early stuff still remained the same, with the addition of a few more characters, like the introduction of a few new characters, like the 18th century Lug Beowulf, or Zulu, it doesn't matter, who was found by Werewolf Village, because werewolves also exist. A character named Toko Aozaki learns abroad in London, and then goes to the all-girls school in Japan. She then loses her inheritance to the main character of the next game, Ayoko Ayozaki, her younger sister, who, at that time, was a little baby. Angry from this, she runs from home and goes to study in Britain, at the magical school called the Clock Tower. Then in 1987, she makes a contract with Lug. I don't know. Together, they then travel across the world, boarding the Royal Zeppelin, fighting the Kraken, traveling to the Bermuda Triangle, and finding the elder titled Dead Apostle Ancestor. Where's that story? Seal is then born in 1989, much later than in the original timeline. Then events of the newest game in the series finally takes place. Mahosukai no Yoru, which takes place during November to December of 1989, featuring the new main character Ayoko Ozaki, who appeared in the Tsukihime timeline, albeit older and with different colored hair. Ayoko tries to live two completely different lifestyles, living as both a normal high school student during the day and acting as a Magnus during the night. Issues occur throughout the game and she solves it. Itself, it's its own neatly packed story and explains Ayoko's character a bit more. Quick short story and adventure of first love, Mahosuki no Yoru. Then in 2001 there was a French incident. As you imagine, there was an incident in France. The dead apostle ancestor allies attack both Niel and Noel's hometown. Noel is a character who later on becomes a member of the Holy Church because of this, leaving them as the two sole survivors. Then in 2004, Shiki's Nananya family gets unalived. And then in 2007, Shiki has his incident. Then the wacky 2010s, the series begins. Multi-Blood, Type Lumina occurs in 2014, 10 days before when the remake would have taken place. It is an earlier possibility of what might happen. Like before, it's fighting game with various endings, stories, and characters. Saber makes an appearance at least, so that's cool. Tsukihime, Piece of Blue Glass Moon. Obviously, it's the same story as the original, but with some changes, mainly follow the ending of three different routes from the original. The next game, Tsukihime, The Other Side of Red Garden, is meant to come out some point in the future, and is made to complete the remaining routes. Then sometime in the summer of 2014, the short story The Clock Tower was produced. Here it features a character you might recognize from the Fate Grand Order series, Lev Lanero Floros, choosing to exit the server. Um, Mom told him he's done playing, so, he logged out. It explains what both Lev and the Sheldia organization does when the Grand Order doesn't exist. So, that's it. That's the main Tsukihime timeline series done, both the original and the remake. There's some more smaller details and some short stories that I chose to leave out, but that's the basics of how this timeline works. And you know what? That was pretty easy. Just a few different short stories and visual novels and fighting games, all already kind of produced pretty chronologically. It's very self-contained and relatively contained timeline. No really weird major crossovers only really occur through obscure manga and short stories. For being one of the big cash cows that launched Type Moon to the moon, it's not much to talk about. So what's next? What other simple franchise that Type Moon produced can I talk about after this that is going to be just as easy? Oh, all right. Yeah, that makes sense. Hello, Shiro Emiya. I'll be seeing you for the next little bit. I gotta cover Fate Extra too, don't I? Ah.